first and foremost, President flew to Rome over the weekend, attended the Pope's funeral. I mean, take a look at all these people scrambling to meet President Trump. It was just like Jimmy Carter's funeral in the sense that you actually see a lot of business getting done and people hanging out. And it was interesting because you saw a lot of these world leaders trying to get their 2 seconds or so with Trump. And it was funny because Biden came there. And I got to be honest with you, and I don't mean this in a pejorative or mean way. I'm being complete. But when you saw how frail he looked, and at one point he's getting assisted by one of the cardinals. I know that we sometimes, and we'll mention this in a minute about the decline, but there's no one in their right minds that thinks he could have honestly tried to govern for another 4 years. And just watching him at the Pope's funeral and realizing, think about it, you're not really doing anything right now, right? The job of president is demanding, it's taxing, and he's fading quick. And again, I'm not trying to be mean or disparaging. It's just when you watch him, he looks frail. And so that's it. On the flip side, you saw President Trump out there meeting with Zelenskyy. And I got to be honest with you, it both in tone and tenor, it looked promising. And I've said this before, I don't think there's anyone else in the world right now that can get peace except for President Trump. And I know he wants to get this done. You saw that image of them sitting there in St. Peter's with 2 chairs, like it was like a parent-teacher conference. You know what I mean? But there's no aides. There's no translators. This is Trump one-on-one getting the job done. And again, I don't mean to harp on this, but I just can't, like, if this was Biden or even Obama, like there would have been 10 aides and a long table and translators. This is Trump sitting a mano-a-mano right there saying, let's talk, let's get it done. Zelenskyy says it was a great meeting. And I just, again, but by the way, it really probably was the first and last time you're ever going to see like a bilateral meeting of this nature happen in the Vatican. But for all the naysayers, I just want to make sure we're all clear on the fact, because Trump wants peace. I know this personally. He hates death and destruction. He hates the imagery of people getting killed. It really moves him in a serious, he is moved by this. He truly wants peace and the end of death and destruction. But let's put what's happening in context, because the media won't. Everyone loves to talk about Crimea and, what it's right and wrong. Let's remember when this happened. Russia took Crimea under Obama. Remember when they tried to have a reset and Hillary Clinton wanted to push the easy button that you get at Staples? And Obama met with Medvedev, then the president, when Putin had kind of taken this backseat as prime minister, which we all knew was kind of a joke. And he says, hey, remember, I'll have more flexibility after the election. I'll deliver that to Vladimir, was the message he got back. I mean, and now apparently it's Trump's fault. Like he's supposed to solve all this. It was Obama's watch that this happened on. Then 4 years of Trump, nothing happens. Not just in terms of Russian aggression, but anywhere. No wars, no nothing. Then Biden comes into office. What's the first thing to do? The failed Afghanistan withdrawal leads to Russia. And this isn't my words. This is Putin saying, yeah, that made me think these guys won't stop me. Trump is cleaning up their messes. It is funny for me, for all these people who want to nip at the heels of Donald Trump and talk about how he's going about this. He didn't do this. They did. He's cleaning it up for them. It's unbelievable. And by the way, before I leave the Zelenskyy and St. Peter's and Rome thing, since I'm on my high horse about the media, and it's going to get worse, just so you know, because I'm going to talk about the White House Correspondents' Dinner. The Vatican had said we'd like everyone to wear like black for the funeral, which again, I'm not a big fan of black, because I believe if you actually think about what's supposed to be happening, especially as a Catholic, the Pope is born into this new life. This is a time for celebration for the life that he lived and the opportunity to continue his life with Christ. I always think sometimes that we've approached these things wrong, but I won't digress. But they say, they're supposed to be, please wear black. Well, Trump wears a blue suit, as he always does, frankly. And everybody takes this, look at the shot, look at the photo. Oh my God, Trump wore a blue suit. But if you pan out from that photo, you'll see that, like, maybe a fifth, sixth of all the people are also wearing blue suits. But they had to find a way to nip at Trump, didn't they? That's how petty these folks are. They literally cropped the photos. It's like that time that he was throwing, food into a koi pond, and they said, oh, he was just dumping it, whatever, until you realized that the Prime Minister of Japan had said, oh, please go do this. Shinzo Abe. But they'll do anything they can to manipulate a photo, to do whatever it takes to make him look bad. And that photo, again, I don't mean to get off on it, but I have to. And that actually plays right into where I wanted to get to, which is the White House Correspondents' Dinner. Now, I didn't go. I went on C-SPAN. I hope some of you saw it. I want to show you a little, because my goal was to make sure that people understood that when they hear these fluffy speeches about the First Amendment and freedom of the press, that these guys are full of crap. Let me play you some of what I said that night on Saturday night about the dinner.
Your perspective? What's the purpose?
Frankly, I actually agree with Frank almost on everything you said there, right? What it should be and what it's become are two different things. It was funny, as Frank was describing that, I couldn't help but think of my own experience in the briefing room, and I thought the briefing and the dinner are very synonymous. That what it should be and what it has become are two different things. The briefings become a spectacle. The dinners become a spectacle. And when I hear Eugene Daniels get up there and talk about the First Amendment, it makes me chuckle, because this is an organization that when 440 hard passes were stripped from independent journalists under the Biden White House, none of them said a single thing. That association did nothing. And when I look at what that dinner could be, I think Frank's absolutely right. It could be a really nice night for people to enjoy each other's company, come together for some camaraderie. I'm a fan of it. I mean, there's some people who say critically it's not a good look for the I disagree with that. I think that it is good to know individuals. Everybody's got a job to do. I respect the job of what journalists do. But I think, like so many other things in this town, Frank's absolutely right. It's become a spectacle.
They want to pretend that everything's normal and that we're supposed to be props. And as I've said, and you guys have heard me say this, that Republicans who go to those dinners are just props in an attempt to give them credibility. And you are part of the problem. And, it was very different. President Trump has never gone. So this is 5 times that he hasn't gone to the dinner. Technically 4, because one of them was canceled because of COVID, but he wouldn't have gone that way anyway. But this time, there were 2 distinctly different things that I think are worth pointing out. Number one, it wasn't just the president and some White House staff. There was rarely to be seen a Republican there. It was unbelievable. And there were alternative events. That was the other thing. David Sachs, the AI guy who's a co-founder of PayPal, had a big alternative event with a bunch of tech folks. And then there was an event that Steve Bannon and Raheem Kassam put on at a place on Capitol Hill. Marco Rubio went to that. I went to that. It was fantastic. And then there was a Substack party for independent journalists. And it was actually bipartisan, by the way, because Substack's just a platform for free speech. I liked the idea of being able to go out and celebrate stuff and enjoy each other's company without feeling like we were props or getting punched by these left-wing elitist so-called journalists. Anyway, it was funny though, because again, they just couldn't stop themselves. And Politico described the event at Bannon's, which I thought was fantastic. And by the way, there were some quote legacy reporters there. I won't call them out because I'm sure they don't want to be, but people actually came to enjoy each other's company and have fun. Natalie Winters, I got to see her, Jack Pacific, a lot of great MAGA right-leaning folks, but also some folks that I think just enjoyed being in the company of people who are, frankly, leading so much of the discussion. But this is how Politico described it. On full display Saturday evening was one of the defining stories of President Donald Trump's return to Washington. MAGA's hostile takeover of this town, from administration officials hosting the highest profile parties to the movement's journalists getting a bevy of questions in the briefing room. Hostile takeover. No, actually, they're just getting their turn. You're just so jealous at Politico because you guys have done such a bad job that this isn't a hostile takeover. Actually, we've been welcome in, dummy. I've got a pass. I go. I'll be there tomorrow, by the way. Not to get ahead of it. But I'm going to be over at the White House starting to celebrate the 100 days, talking to some senior officials, and Tuesday's show, Wednesday's show are going to be fantastic because of it. There's nothing hostile about it, Politico. You guys are just jealous. That's what it is. Anyway, the New York Times, by the way, talk about really getting an understanding of what happened. They said in interviews, top journalists at multiple news outlets said that it had been nearly impossible to convince celebrities and lawmakers to attend as guests. One reporter said that the list of people who had rejected invitations to join the publication's table was in the dozens. In the dozens. Now, in the past, people would beg, please, can I come to the dinner? If you get an extra ticket, can I come? Could I get a +1 potentially? Begging, can I come to this dinner? Oh, I want to be seen and rub elbows with D-list celebrities. But now, quite the opposite. You couldn't give the tickets away. It was boring. It was lame. They jumped the shark. Even my buddy Dan Turrentine from the morning meeting watched me over on C-SPAN. Great image of him with his feet up on a Saturday night watching C-SPAN, which a lot of people were. I got a lot of great feedback from that. But then you saw the president of the White House Correspondents Association, Eugene Daniels. Remember, he was at Politico, did a horrible job there, and then is transitioning over to MSNBC to host a show there. But this is what he had to say. Take a listen.
We journalists are a lot of things. We are competitive and pushy. We are impatient, and sometimes we think we know everything. But we're also human. We miss our families and significant life moments in service to this job. We care deeply about accuracy and take seriously the heavy responsibility of being stewards of the public's trust. What we are not is the opposition. What we are not is the enemy of the people, and what we are not is the enemy of the state.
You are the opposition. That's a fact. I mean, why are you so defensive? Because you know that the trust in what you've done is gone. The reason that independent media has risen the way it has is because you didn't do your job. You lost trust. Hoax after hoax, story after story that you didn't cover, that you covered in a biased way, that you covered up. Don't pretend that you're high and mighty now because you've got a dinner with your buddies. But then he went on to talk about why the president's invited and all this kind of stuff. Take a listen. He just couldn't help himself.
As you all know, every year we invite the president to this dinner. For decades, presidents on both sides of the political spectrum get gussied up and join us. I want to be clear about something. We don't invite presidents of the United States to this because it's for them. We don't invite them because we want to cozy up to them or curry favor. We don't only extend invites to the presidents who say they love journalists or who say they are defenders of the First Amendment and a free press. We invite them to remind them that they should be. We invite them to demonstrate that those of us who have chosen the public service of journalism aren't doing it because we love flights on Air Force One or walking into the Oval Office. It's to remind them why a strong fourth estate is essential for democracy.
So, look, the bottom line is the same First Amendment that gives the freedom of the press also gives the freedom of assembly. You want to have your dinner with your liberal elitist friends? Go for it. God bless you. But it doesn't mean that we get to be props in your little exam. You chose to hire a comedian who openly said she hated the president of the United States and would mock him. And then acted somehow like, oh, how did that happen? It was Eugene Daniels who invited her. And then he kind of tried to gaslight everyone by being like, I don't know how she got here. We just dismissed her. He, of all people, to stand there and lecture us about this, he was auditioning to be Kamala Harris's press secretary. He is now becoming a host on MSNBC. The idea that he was masquerading and identified as a journalist is a joke. Stop trying to use the Constitution to cloak your bias in. I'm all for the freedom of the press. I'm all for a good journalist. But don't wrap yourself in it after the way that you've behaved the last several years. There was one reporter that did get an award for his aggressive reporting of Biden. It's called the Arlo Beckman Award. And I want to play for you because a guy named Alex Thompson from Axios got it. And I want you to hear what he said about the award that he got for the subject that he got.
President Biden's decline and its cover-up by the people around him is a reminder that every White House, regardless of party, is capable of deception. But being truth tellers also means telling the truth about ourselves. We, myself included, missed a lot of this story, and some people trust us less because of it. We bear some responsibility for faith in the media being at such lows. I say this because acknowledging errors builds trust, and being defensive about them further erodes it. We should have done better.
Should have ended the speech right there. Golf clap. You see how tepid that was from his colleagues? You notice the other thing, though, it always goes in one direction. Every time they screw up, it's against the right. They never go, well, gosh, we screwed that story up on Kamala Harris or Joe Biden or Barack Obama. It's always what they do to the right. And then they say, yeah, we went too far. We didn't get this story. But as much as I would like to accept his apology there, the idea that they're saying that we missed it, like I miss a catch, like when someone throws me a ball, that's when you miss something, right? You're trying to catch a ball and it falls to the side. They didn't miss that. They saw it. That's the thing. Again, they're gaslighting us. They knew it was happening. It wasn't like we never saw the president and we didn't see it. We watched him stumble upstairs and downstairs and take the short stairs, fall on his face at events, stumble through public interviews and the most basic things. You didn't miss it. That's the thing. You ignored it. And there's a difference. And when you try to pretend you missed it like a fly ball, you're gaslighting the American people. You guys chose to ignore that story because you are biased towards that side of the aisle and you hate Republicans. That's a fact. And it always goes in that direction. Well, if you enjoyed this content, make sure to like this video, subscribe, and click the notification bell to get more.